This podcast serves Middle Tennessee every weekday morning, and it's made possible by member support. Learn how you can make a difference at WPLN.org/support.
This is the Nashvillager Podcast. It's August 5th, 2025. On this day in 1917, the entire U.S. National Guard was mobilized for World War I. It was a way of quickly beefing up the Army's ranks as the nation made its entry into that already long-running conflict. It's also one of a handful of developments that transformed the Guard from what had been essentially local militias to a truly professional arm of the nation's military. I'm Nina Cardona, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee with historical context from Nashville Public Radio, WPLN News. For the first 100 or so years of Tennessee's statehood, we had various kinds of local armies or militias that were established for a particular conflict or purpose, and then, eventually, each was dissolved. There wasn't a quote-unquote Tennessee National Guard until 1887, and it was established by the state legislature because the states were calling all the shots then in terms of how much of a guard to have and when each state's guard would contribute to a national war effort. In fact, when things started to really change in 1916, Nevada didn't even have a guard yet. Like I said, there were a series of actions that changed that as the nation felt the need to quickly amass large groups of soldiers for various reasons, to fight in World War I, but also to respond to Pancho Villa's raids on the Mexican border. 110 years ago, there actually was a real fear that we might end up fighting another war with Mexico. And in the process, the National Guard became this kind of military entity that can shift back and forth from taking orders from the state to getting its remit from the federal government. And with that has come a level of financial relationship with the federal budget that wasn't there when the Guard was strictly a state militia. On Friday, Congress gave final approval to a military appropriations bill that, among other things, funds a big change for part of the Tennessee National Guard. The Guard's headquarters, long housed in a facility adjacent to the Nashville airport, is moving to the Smyrna-Rutherford County Airport. So is the 118th Wing of the Air National Guard. In all, about 1,700 Guardsmen are associated with the units that are moving. The move frees up space at the Nashville airport as that facility continues to make plans for further expansion. And it also consolidates more military activity on a site that was quite literally built just for that purpose. The Smyrna Airport was Seward Air Force Base for 30 years, starting during World War II, and it was a site for training bomber crews how to fly the B-17 Flying Fortress and the B-24 Liberator. And for a while, it was a center for troop transport operations. And eventually, it was shut down in the Vietnam era. Since then, part of the old base has been used by the Guard. But this move, bringing in the headquarters and 118th from Nashville, marks a significant new investment in the Smyrna facility. It comes with an estimated $400 million in infrastructure improvements. And that's in addition to a project that broke ground earlier this year, a warehouse facility to support the Guard's activities on the old base. In just a few minutes, threats of mass violence in the time of social media. That's coming up after the newscast.
Here's the mantra I think about at WPLN. We connect the dots. It captures a mindset that our journalism is not merely about the latest press release or proclamations by officials. Instead, we can develop expertise, dig deeper, and look to history to understand what's happening now. I'm Tony Gonzalez, news director. When I'm planning coverage and editing stories, the best part is being part of a team that's curious about our community and invested in its future.
Here's the latest from WPLN News. Tennessee will move forward with the execution of Byron Black this morning using its standard lethal injection protocol. Governor Bill Lee and the U.S. Supreme Court have declined to intervene. Black, who is 69, is in heart failure and has a defibrillator implanted in his chest. WPLN health reporter Catherine Sweeney tells us that efforts to get the device deprogrammed were unsuccessful.
Byron Black's attorneys convinced a county court judge that the device could jolt him with electric shocks as he dies, causing unnecessary pain and suffering. The court ordered the Tennessee Department of Correction to bring in an expert and deprogram the device. But then the Tennessee Supreme Court ruled only its justices had the authority to tell TDOC what to do during an execution. And on Thursday, it said the agency doesn't have to do anything about the implant.
Black also has an intellectual disability as well as dementia and schizophrenia. He was sentenced under old competency rules and had exhausted his appeals by the time new ones took effect. That's why disability rights organizations asked the governor for a reprieve. The execution is scheduled to take place at 10 a.m. Today is the first day of school in Nashville. Several districts got underway last week, and by the end of this week, pretty much all of Middle Tennessee public schools will be in session. Brick Church Middle School has been renamed to honor the late Judge Richard H. Dinkins, a civil rights pioneer who helped reshape public education in Nashville. Dinkins played a critical role in desegregating the city's public schools and advocated for educational equity throughout his life. Dinkins developed his passion for civil rights after meeting Martin Luther King Jr. when he was 10 years old. He worked on numerous high-profile civil rights, education, and employment cases, including working as an attorney for the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund. The Metro School Board voted unanimously in March to rename the school after Dinkins. Metro Nashville Public Schools held a dedication ceremony on Saturday, which included remarks from city leaders, a student presentation, and the unveiling of displays honoring Dinkins' life and impact. The rapid growth of Clarksville is raising alarm about the city's housing supply, and a new assessment suggests what can be done. Clarksville anticipates needing 15,000 more homes in the next 5 years. Building more affordable homes for sale, adding subsidized rentals, and revising zoning codes are among the recommendations. Clarksville now reports that officials wanted to take stock of the population and housing trends as a first step into trying to guide growth. The community has seen unprecedented development and frequently ranks as the fastest growing city in Tennessee. Well, no longer will you need a quick ticket or an app to ride the bus in Nashville. WeGo has introduced contactless payment, meaning that riders can tap to pay using a credit or debit card or mobile wallet. Usable cards need to have the contactless payment icon, which looks like the Wi-Fi symbol turned on its side. Riders will automatically get fare capping benefits, meaning as long as they use the same card for every ride, the system will give them the best deal available. Jessica Dauphin, a member of the Metro Transit Authority Board, says the update is about breaking down barriers, particularly for first-time or irregular riders.
No more digging for change like it's 1990. No more worrying if you've downloaded the right app or fussing with the phone that won't cooperate from personal experience. Or trying to figure out where to buy your fare card. You just tap your credit card or your phone with your Google or Apple Pay, and boom, you're on your way.
WeGo overhauled its fare payment system back in 2022 after more than 5 years of development and testing. That enabled riders to use reloadable cards or smartphone payment apps. Those payment methods will still be accepted with the new update, so will cash payments with exact change only. A vacant site in Donaldson that was home to a hospital more than a decade ago could be revitalized as a mixed-use project. The 22 acres on Lebanon Pike are being imagined as single-family homes, apartments, restaurants, retail, and a grocery store. The Nashville Business Journal reports the developer seeking rezoning approval next month is Holiday Properties, which created the factory at Franklin. You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org. Last fall, 16 middle school students waiting for cheerleading practice to start in rural East Tennessee decided to make a TikTok video. In the video, they role-played a school shooting.
Put your hands up!
Every member of that cheerleading squad was charged criminally. Their story has become a common one in Tennessee, where student social media is becoming fodder for criminal charges in an era of heightened response to school threats. ProPublica's Aaliyah Swaby has been reporting on this and joins me now. What happened to the middle school girls who were charged for making this TikTok?
So all 16 girls, including one as young as 11 years old, were charged with disorderly conduct, which is a misdemeanor in Tennessee. According to one grandmother who spoke with me, they all got 3 months of probation for the charge, and it could be extended if their grades dropped or if they got in trouble again. And they also had to write a letter of apology to the judge and pay more than $100 in court costs, which for some people in that small, pretty rural community is a lot.
How should the sheriff's department have handled this incident?
So I ran this case by Mackenzie Perkins, who's the threat assessment supervisor at Collierville Schools outside of Memphis. And she told me, you're never going to suspend, expel, or charge your way out of targeted mass violence. And that's a statement that has been reiterated by several experts I've talked to who specialize in school violence prevention. Instead, they say that police and school officials should focus on education and support services for students who act out because it's more likely to remove them from the path of violence. And harsh punishment without any of that support or any of that education actually ends up causing more harm to the student and then to the broader community as well.
Your story talks about how school officials and police are handling social media and online threats. What do these authorities say are some of the challenges that they're facing?
WPLN's criminal justice reporter, Paige Flager, and I actually interviewed an official in Greene County Sheriff's Department days before the incident with the cheerleaders. And at the time, Lieutenant Teddy Lawing told us that his officers were investigating about a dozen social media threats, but they weren't making any progress on them. And the Appalachia High School shooting in Georgia had just happened. And so schools across the country were seeing thousands of hoax threats on social media. And so lawmakers and law enforcement in Tennessee and elsewhere have said they need that harsh punishment so that they can deter students from continuing to make those threats.
Your latest investigation explored another case in Middle Tennessee that involved a video created using artificial intelligence. Tell me more about what happened.
So I interviewed a 16-year-old in Lincoln County who we referred to by his initials, DC. One evening last fall, he downloaded an AI video app that let him turn pictures of his friends into funny videos. He made one video where his friend stood in the school cafeteria and his friend's mouth and eyes moved unnaturally as he threatened to shoot up the school and bring a bomb in his backpack. DC thought it was funny and sent it to a private Snapchat group of about 10 friends because they had teased that friend in the video about looking like a school shooter. But one of the students copied it and sent it to other students on Snapchat, and it started spreading publicly. The next day, DC went to tell administrators at his school that he had created the video as a joke because he was worried that his friend would get in trouble. And then DC ended up being expelled from school for a year and charged with a felony for making a threat of mass violence.
Do you have any insight into why kids today are using social media to make light of school shootings?
I actually posed this question to DC in my interview with him, and he said that a lot of his friends joke about school violence partly because they're desensitized to it. But he also said that joking about it made it feel less serious for them. So basically, it functions as a coping mechanism at a time where everybody feels like their school is going to be the next target of a school shooting.
Are there any examples out there of schools in Tennessee doing a good job of handling social media threats?
Mackenzie Perkins, who I mentioned before, is helping her school district outside of Memphis chart a pretty different path in managing social media threats. So she and other administrators in the district have done trainings on how to handle digital threats or social media threats with an organization called Safer Schools Together. And this organization and their trainings have taught things like how to reverse image search photos of guns so that you can tell if it's a stock photo or a gun that the student actually has. She told me about a recent incident where she used those tools to find out that an elementary school girl had made a school threat on Instagram. And then after that, instead of expelling the girl, Perkins and her team worked to develop a plan to manage her attention-seeking behavior and talk to her family about getting her help, which is, as we've seen in this story and in others that Paige and I have done, is really different than a lot of other districts have been handling these cases. Perkins encourages school administrators everywhere to get vetted training, like she did, on how to handle these social media threats to keep their students and their staff safe.
Elias Waby reported the story for ProPublica. To read her full investigation, visit our website, WPLN.org. And to hear her on Thursday's episode of This is Nashville about phones and schools, listen in your favorite podcasting app. Thanks for listening to the Nashville is Your podcast. We take this look at Nashville news every weekday. If you like it, go ahead and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app. And tell a friend or give us a mention on your socials. It really helps get the word out. And of course, everything at WPLN News is listener supported. You can become a member at WPLN.org. And that's it for today. Thanks Thanks so much for listening. Let's make this day a good one, and we'll catch back up tomorrow.